Welcome to the Ivan Herrera Show. It is the Sunday night of week 2, which means we have had a lot of football already in the books. And as we gear up to get ready for Monday Night Football, I'm going to go over a few of the rookies that finally had the debut that we were all looking for. I'm going to go over some week 2 studs. I'm going to also share some bounce back performances that we saw from superstars that we were looking to have a big season in 2024. And I'm also going to review some surprises, some good ones and some bad ones. And then at the very end, I'm going to also have some reactions to all this, as well as give you some advice on how to prepare yourself for week 3. And just from there, let's go ahead and go over some of the rookies that finally broke out. And for me, I was really excited because I have him in a couple leagues. And this is Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, the top prospect in this past draft, one could argue. He had a huge breakout, 4 receptions on 8 targets, had 2 touchdowns, giving you 131 yards. I mean, that first touchdown was really impressive all in itself. And we'll get into the great performance that Kyler Murray had a little bit later. But just as it's good to see Marvin Harrison. I know that we had so much talk and so much concern about whether or not he can get separation and how well he would do in this offense. And of course, week 1 didn't really bode well considering the lack of involvement. But you can tell that the Arizona Cardinals made it a concerted effort to make sure that they utilized this rookie wide receiver, and it panned out well for them, considering that they, as in the Cardinals, had a huge win over the Los Angeles Rams. And my advice for you is just continue starting this stud. He's going to continue to be utilized. And of course, in this offense, when they do well, I expect Marvin Harrison to be a true beneficiary from a fantasy football perspective to truly benefit from that. Now, another one we saw from the New York Giants. I know that this team has had a bad rap, considering that we know that this offense and this team really isn't much to look at. However, Malik Neighbors, he had 18 targets. Good Lord. 10 receptions, 127 yards, and 1 touchdown. I mean, we knew this was going to be the one, probably the only bright light when you're looking and analyzing this New York offense. And Malik Neighbors truly showcased why he was worth all that draft capital, truly having a remarkable performance. I mean, he was really cold in that first week 1 performance. I mean, he showed some light of course, the just potential, but he put it all on display in week 2 as the Giants got to see how great this kid was. And I expect this guy to continue to be the only one that you're going to truly want in this New York offense. I know that Singletary has been somewhat of a disappointment. I mean, even in a 2-quarterback league, I'm not even seeing myself wanting to start Daniel Jones. And another rookie, with the Las Vegas Raiders having a truly impressive win over the Baltimore Ravens, Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end, this prospect that we saw having all the great tools, all the assets needed to be successful in the NFL, had 9 receptions on 9 targets for 98 yards, putting it all together. And if you had him at the tight end position in your starting lineup, you, of course, are coming out really happy. So it's really cool to see these 3 rookies truly put it all together. And for me, at least, I'm really excited to see what Brock Bowers is going to continue to do. We obviously know that Devontae Adams, who we're going to go over a little bit later, is going to get featured in this offense. But Brock Bowers is going to have a role, especially if Las Vegas is looking to find any kind of success, being that the running game really right now for them with Zamir White as well as Alexander Madison didn't really do much for them in this game. But of course, when they are going vertical and focusing on that passing game, they have 2 really good options with Devontae Adams and of course the rookie Brock Bowers. Now, to get into some studs, we had some amazing performances. And as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and as someone that truly despises the Dallas Cowboys, I was so happy to see Alvin Kamara just feast off of the Dallas Cowboys. Alvin Kamara rushed 20 times for 115 yards, had 3 touchdowns, also was heavily involved. Well, not heavily involved, but he was involved in the passing game, had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 65 yards and a touchdown, giving you 40 plus points in PPR formats. And I mean, for someone that was drafted in my ranks a little bit lower, this guy has been absolutely awesome. So if you have him on your roster, I'm sure you're currently right now 2-0, but just continue to play the hot hand. I mean, of course, Kendre Miller is still someone that is probably going to slowly work his way into this offense. Of course, throughout the entire offseason, we heard about the hamstring injury that was really hampering him, but Alvin Kamara clearly has a clear hold of this running back room. And in my opinion, is going to continue expecting you to be the one that you're going to want to start in this offense, and it should be doing well for you for the rest of the season. Alvin Kamara is easily a RB1 rest of season for the New Orleans Saints. Now, the next one I want to go over is someone that I've been really happy about and really happy seeing doing well is going to be Kyler Murray. He had a phenomenal performance versus the Los Angeles Rams in Arizona. 17 for 21, 266 yards in the air for 3 touchdowns, giving you a perfect passer rating, and also rushed for 5 attempts for 59 rushing yards, continuing to solidify his role there in the passing game as well as the running game, giving you a safe floor there. And Kyler Murray now coming off 2 straight games with at least 5 rushing attempts. And I know that in week 1, he wasn't really too efficient, but we're seeing what could happen when he puts it all together, especially with the great weapons that he has there. And another one that we're going to want to go over is going to be DK Metcalf, another star that didn't have a great week 1, but bounced back in week 2 versus the New England Patriots, had 10 receptions on 14 targets, 129 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown, putting it all together for a fantastic performance for the Seattle Seahawks, who were able to get the late game field goal to secure the win for them. And for me, DK Metcalf as well as JSN both had great performances. And for me, it just continues to show that when Geno Smith is right, this offense is definitely going to hit some strides, and DK Metcalf as well as JSN are going to be true beneficiaries of it. We saw Tyler Lockett not really get too involved in this game. And for me, it's hopefully showcasing that this offense is going to now start to lean, of course, on their alpha wide receiver, DK Metcalf, as well as their young stud in JSN. Now, for the Sunday night matchup, we saw Nico Collins put on a show. He had 8 receptions on 10 targets with 135 receiving yards and a touchdown. Of course, a very impressive one like that as well. And of course, when we had this team analyzed in the beginning of the year, the question mark, of course, was around who's going to be the number 1 target for CJ Stroud. And early on, we're seeing that Nico Collins has a safe role within this offense. Of course, Stephon Diggs had the impressive performance in week 1 with all those touchdowns, but we're seeing that Nico Collins is the one that is going to have this consistent workload thrown his way. And Nico Collins, of course, picking up where he left off last season, being a week 2 stud. And of course, we have to also get into some of the bounce back performances. And this specifically is more so targeting some of those guys, and more so some of those superstars where we just left our heads scratching like, okay, what was that all about? And thankfully for us, Amon-Ra St. Brown is back. He saw a heavy target workload. He had 19 targets, 11 receptions, 119 yards. Of course, we're going to stay really close to what happened there at the end of the game where he had to step out. Looked like he had a ankle injury of some kind. And of course, once we get more word on how he is doing, we'll be sure to let you guys know as well. But as far as we know, Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously showcasing his true fantasy value with that heavy workload that he was able to get in this matchup versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And one I want to also gloss over is going to be Davante Adams. Of course, I was a little bit low on him, but we know that if Las Vegas was going to have any kind of success, Davante Adams was going to have to get utilized, and he did in a huge matchup versus the Baltimore Ravens. 9 receptions on 12 targets, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown, helping, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders upset the Baltimore Ravens there in Baltimore. And another player I actually wanted to mention, now that we've covered Davante Adams, is going to be Calvin Ridley. And this was someone that I was really targeting late in a lot of my drafts because of the value that I saw in him, especially within this offense, knowing that DeAndre Hopkins was going to slowly make his way back after the injuries that he was dealing with. But Calvin Ridley bounced back in week 2 with 4 receptions on 6 targets, 77 yards, 1 touchdown, and even was able to get a 10-yard rushing touchdown as well to put a 20-plus performance in PPR formats. And so for me, Calvin Ridley, as well as these other 2 players with Davante Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown being the ones I'm going to highlight as bounce back performances in week 2. And we should hopefully see them just continue the same success throughout the rest of the season. Now, some surprises, of course, that we have to make mention, whether it's a reaction or overreaction, I'll let you decide, and I'll also share my 2 cents. The first one is going to be Quentin Johnson from the Los Angeles Chargers. He's now had 2 straight games where he's at least seen 5 targets or more. He had 5 receptions on 6 targets with 51 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, Quentin Johnson I don't want you to overreact, but he is only rostered in 16% of sleeper rosters. And I'm sure that the same number is there as well on the ESPN platform. So just keep an eye on Quentin Johnson. I mean, of course, this offense is more of a run heavy one, and we'll obviously get to his teammate J.K. Dobbins a little bit later. But for me, Quentin Johnson just put up, of course, a very good performance, but just keep an eye out, see if he's someone that you can stash for now until we see how they're going to continue to use him there in Los Angeles. And one that I'm really concerned about is a player that I've been really high on. I was really high on him in the offseason, only because we didn't know what the role of Brian Thomas was going to be like, what was Gabe Davis going to do in this Jacksonville offense, and how was Trevor Lawrence going to bounce back after what we thought was a very disappointing 2023 season. And Christian Kirk, unfortunately, has not looked all that well. He had 1 reception on 3 targets for -1 yards. That's right, you heard that correctly. 1 for 3 for -1 in the air. And in week 1, similar numbers. Only 1 reception on 4 targets, 30 yards, not doing much for you in fantasy. And I actually got the text, my buddy Cole, who was on this show just last week, a few times after we were previewing week 1. And the thing is, Christian Kirk just has been just really dealing with these very terrible matchups. And he could be someone that you can buy low on, only because I believe the schedule will become much easier. Now, if I'm honest with you, I'm probably not going to start him until I see that turnaround. So if you have better options, which I hope you do, just keep your eyes out, see what you can do to hopefully, patch the Christian Kirk wound that your roster is currently dealing with. Now, the other one I want to get to is going to be Travis Kelce. Now, the Chiefs were able to beat out the Bengals today on a very impressive, very tight win. But Travis Kelce, after week 1, going 3 for 4 for 34 yards, went 1 for 3 with only 5 yards. Now, I know that when me and Cole were previewing this in week 1, as far as, hey, expect Travis Kelce to have a slow start. This wasn't probably the slow start that we were both anticipating. However, I'm not going to press the panic button, forgive me. But I am concerned, though. I am wondering, okay, how is week 3 going to look for this Kansas City team as far as how they're utilizing Travis Kelce? Because he was still going really high. He was still being drafted 3rd round range, possibly maybe even late 2nd. So I'd be concerned as well for Travis Kelce. And there isn't really many options that give you much solace, being that, of course, we saw Evan Ingram out this week as well. And yeah, I'm just keeping my eyes close to Travis Kelce, but he's not fun to watch right now. But on the other end, though, Jordan Mason, someone that on this show that we had said, hey, you know what? This is someone that he's worth the stash, because if anything was to, God forbid, to happen to CMC, and we're actually finding out, not only is CMC, who was placed on the IR on Saturday, maybe out until week 7. So this is going to be a very long time that the San Francisco 49ers are not going to have their star running back. But Jordan Mason continues to shine. He had 20 rushes for 100 yards and 1 touchdown. Granted, the Vikings were able to get the win, but Mason is showcasing that he is going to be the guy that is going to carry this workload for the 49ers. So if he's someone that is, for some reason, available on your fantasy free agent waiver wire, by all means, grab yourself Jordan Mason. Or if you're the CMC manager, maybe start to see how you can level up the storm with CMC out by maybe even making a trade. But yeah, Jordan Mason is going to be the RB1 and could be a league winner for you, especially if you don't even own CMC, but you now have another solidified running back 1 that can hold you over for these next few weeks in your flex position, or maybe even in your running back slot. Now, another one I want to get into is going to be another backup as well. It's going to be Zach Charbonnet. Now, the numbers I'm going to share with you aren't anything that is staggeringly impressive. It's not staggering as far as how impressive it is, but it's just showcasing the value of getting handcuffs. Now, I was big on Zach Charbonnet last season, where I said that he was going to be a league winner, only because of the draft capital that Seattle paid to get him on their roster, being that he was drafted in the 2nd round out of UCLA. But in week 2 versus the New England Patriots, 14 for 38 on the ground. Nothing too impressive there, but he did have a touchdown. But he was heavily involved, and this is where his skill set comes into play here and why he's valuable in fantasy. 5 receptions on 5 targets for 31 yards. So someone that was not only able to fill in, but also fill in a good way, getting you at least double-digit production in PPR formats in fantasy. And the reports are that Kenneth Walker, his injury is going to be dealt with very delicately by Seattle. They're going to be very careful with bringing him back. So this could be a multi-week injury. Zach Charbonnet may still be available, so he is definitely worth scoping out to see if he's available in your free agency, so that way you can add him onto your rosters. Now, another one I want to get into, and someone that could be a sell high, is going to be J.K. Dobbins. I mean, this guy is really looking impressive. Someone that we even said too, I said, hey, he's available late. He's going in the double-digit rounds. He may be worth the stash, considering that Gus Edwards is someone that I wasn't too high on, but both of those guys were going so late where you knew, hey, you know what, regardless whether it was Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, drafting these guys was not going to hurt you. And J.K. Dobbins is proving that, having 17 rushes, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, and even doing front flips, really turning back the clock there. Of course, everyone like myself who had J.K. Dobbins and had some good shares of him, all holding our breath to see, okay, what is going to happen out of this flip? Is he going to be okay? But regardless, though, J.K. Dobbins for me is going to continue to be a must start, especially being that the running back position continues to be so volatile. You're seeing a few star players obviously not really putting it all together this week, but J.K. Dobbins for the second straight week showcasing his true value in this Los Angeles offense, led by, of course, Coach Harbaugh. Now, as we get ready to wind this thing down, before I go any further, I want to also remind you that I am partnered up with Dad Gang. Now, this is one of my favorite brands in the whole wide world because they're all about showcasing and bragging about the greatness it is to be a father. Now, I have a treat for you. For those of you that are dads or you know of a dad that would love this gear, I highly recommend that you use promo code Ivan39078 to get 15% off your order, so that way you can get the great, amazing Dad Gang swag that they have to offer. So go ahead and visit dadgang.co. That's dadgang.co to get 15% off when you use promo code Ivan39078. Now let's go back to the video. And as we get ready to wind down, we're going to preview the the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Philadelphia Eagles for the Monday Night Football matchup. Now, for me, it is quite simply as this. We know that A.J. Brown was ruled out earlier Sunday morning, which I hope that you made your pivots. You were able to put him on your IR and quickly make a quick modification to your roster. And that's actually my point as well. Make sure that you keep all your Monday Night Football players, any of your late game players, even the ones that are on Sunday Night Football, keep them in your flex spot. So that way, if players get ruled out early, you at least have a early pivot. So that way they can be swapped out for somebody else without you having to sacrifice any, permanent roster slot like a wide receiver or a running back. But anyways, that is the all I really wanted to share with you guys today, is go over some of these great recaps of these players that bounce back. And of course, the main thing is, if you're looking at a bounce back performance, of course, we went over that as well. We went over some of the surprises. We also went over some of the rookies that we were hoping to see some good things from as well. But as we get ready to get into week 3, keep a close eye on those waivers, make the moves now. And someone that, of course, I'm really excited about for you to potentially sell high on is going to be the following: J.K. Dobbins. See if you can sell him for someone. Now, on the other end, if you're looking to buy low, keep your eyes out for Christian Kirk. He's going to have better matchups as well. Now, guys who I believe are going to sustain their success is going to also be Calvin Ridley. He's showcasing that he's getting involved in this offense there with Will Levis. Continue to start him as well. Now, of course, I don't believe that Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. were flukes. Those will continue to be guys that I will start week in and week out. Same thing with DK Metcalf. I believe that now Seattle is going to continue to use their alpha wide receiver, being that we saw this offense completely open up with them opening up, with them going more vertical. And then, of course, it helps seeing Geno Smith being more spry, seeing like he was more heavily engaged in this team and this offense as well. But with that, guys, I wish you all the best as we get ready for Monday Night Football. And we will see you guys in the next video, where we recap the entire week and we also get ready for what is coming up in week 3. Best of luck to you guys. God bless. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.